From shorter curfews to grid penalties, there are 10 rule changes for the 2023 F1 season that you absolutely need to know about. Starting with the change in ride height and diffusers. Porpoising, which is also known as bouncing, is what F1 cars do when their underfloor aero fails and the car is pushed off the ground. Not only is it terrible for the driver's comfort, but it's also harmful to their health. And if you ask me, that's a non-negotiable. Some F1 teams had problems with porpoising when the new F1 cars with ground effect aerodynamics came out last year. To fix this, a set of floor-based flexibility and monitoring measures were put in place for the second half of the 2022 season, and more are planned for 2023. In short, there will be 4 more changes this year. The floor edges have been raised by 15 millimeters. The throat height of the diffuser has been raised, and even its edge stiffness has been increased. Other than that, an extra sensor has been allowed to better track the porpoising effect. Theoretically speaking, these developments should make porpoising a matter of the past, and as a result, the focus will stay on the exciting action that the F1 rules reset has brought. Hopefully, the drivers won't have to worry about this anymore. I'm glad that it was resolved, but can you imagine how dangerous all this must be? Speaking of danger, remember that crash that happened last year at the British Grand Prix? To prevent incidents like that, they've added a requirement for stronger roll hoops. Along with the changes to stop porpoising, the safety standards for F1 car roll hoops have been changed after Zhou Guanyu's scary crash at the start of the 2022 British Grand Prix, which sent his Alfa Romeo sliding along the track upside down. The 2023 technical regulations now say that the roll hoop must have a rounded top, which will make it less likely to dig into the ground in an accident. They also set a minimum height for where the homologation test is applied. There will also be a new physical homologation test, in which the load moves the roll hoop forward. What happened to Zhou was a nightmare, and I hope it never happens again to any racer given this change. But that's not the only concern here. It's also extremely important for the car to be the right weight, to be easier to control, and for the driver to be able to see everything clearly. Thankfully, that's what the next changes are focused on: reduced weight and revised mirrors. Before the 2022 season, everyone was talking about F1 car weight. Teams all over the grid tried to get as close as they could to the 798 kilogram limit without fuel, which was one of the biggest rule changes in the sport's history. As F1's new era progresses, the weight limit will go down by 2 kilograms to 796 kilograms in 2023. This means that designers will try to take even more weight off their latest cars. Not just that, F1 cars will have different rearview mirrors. To help drivers see better, the width of the reflective surface will increase by 50 millimeters, from 150 millimeters to 200 millimeters. After Red Bull and Mercedes did tests in Hungary and Belgium last season, the whole field took part in the Dutch Grand Prix, and the rules have now been changed to reflect the modifications.
Leads of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Now, Charles Leclerc is going to have DRS to try and fight it back. Do you remember when Verstappen did this twice in Blockfield? He's just inching ahead, urged on by the crowd, the roars of the crowd, willing Hamilton back onto the...
Let's hope this actually leads to better control and an improved and safer driving experience. Along with that, sprint events have been doubled in number. The number of sprint events will double from 3 to 6 in 2023, which is an exciting change. After a lot of research into their suitability, Azerbaijan, Austria, Belgium, Qatar, the United States, and Sao Paulo were chosen as the locations. The sprint accident damage stipend will now be a fixed amount per team for each race weekend that involves a sprint session. From this year on, the forfeit allowance for each sprint will go up to $300,000, and all other sprint damage allowances will go away. Along with this, the FIA is reviewing the park firm rules for sprint weekends in 2023, with the goal of making it easier to lock the setup. This is because the number of requests for park firm between recent qualifying sessions and sprints has gone up by a significant amount. Doesn't this sound so intriguing? Which reminds me, I'm sure a lot of you will be pleased to hear about this next change: the paddock work hours cut. In the coming years, the number of hours that F1 team members can work during race weekends will go down. That's right, this year the third of 3 restricted periods will start an hour earlier, and in 2024, another hour will be cut. Along with this, the number of curfews allowed during the first and second restricted periods will be cut in half, from 8 to 4 and from 6 to 3 to be exact. And that's not all. There's another cut planned for next year. I for one have no idea how they they managed to do everything before all this. But I absolutely have to mention the qualifying format and DRS trials. According to the updated rules, a revised qualifying format will be used at up to 2 events in 2023 to see if the changes are good enough for future championships. This means that only hard tires will be allowed in Q1, only medium tires in Q2, and only soft tires in Q3. If the RQF sessions are declared wet, intermediates and wets can be used. At RQF events, each driver can use no over 11 sets of dry weather tires, 4 sets of intermediate tires, and 3 sets of wet weather tires. Usually, you can bring 13 sets of dry weather tires, 4 sets of intermediate tires, and 3 sets of wet weather tires on the weekend. As for DRS, its activation after the start, race restart, or safety car restart will also be looked at. The F1 Commission is looking into the possibility of moving this up by 1 lap at the start of a race, sprint, or safety car restart. The FIA has said that this will be tried out during each sprint session in 2023, with the goal of putting it into all races in 2024. Interesting updates, but I guess we'll see what they lead to. But wait, it gets better. Let's talk about the tweaks around the gearbox and flexibility to cool fuel. Before, teams could only make changes to their homologated gearboxes to fix reliability problems or to save money at the start of each season. Now, teams can make changes if materials, processes, or proprietary parts become unavailable. Still, the change must always be backed up by clear documentation. The FIA must approve the change in advance, and the change must not improve performance. Then they'll send a summary of the change to all the teams. A small change on paper could affect reliability in 2023, especially at races that are hotter, if teams are given more freedom in how they cool the fuel. For this year, the fuel in a car cannot be colder than the lowest of 10 degrees Celsius below the ambient temperature, or 10 degrees Celsius, at any time when the car is running after leaving the competitor's designated garage area. I hope these changes affect the experience and drive positively. Grid penalties got a lot of attention at the Italian Grand Prix last year, when a number of drivers got drops because of problems with their engines or gearboxes. This changed the order of the cars, which brings me to the last advancement, clearing up penalty confusion. The wording of the rules has been adjusted because there was some confusion about how to apply them. The relevant section now clarifies the whole thing, which is classified drivers with more than 15 cumulative grid position penalties, or those who have been penalized to begin at the back of the grid, will start behind any other classified driver. The only catch? Their relative position will be decided depending on their qualifying classification. Sounds fair enough. So, these were the changes that have been recently announced, with some more in the works. We'll have to wait and see what the other ones are. Till then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.